Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Everyday Prostate Cancer Warriors channel. Yeah, I know. Everybody's got a new YouTube channel these days. Give me a break, right? Well, at least I haven't started a podcast. Not yet. I'm Steve Fisher, and if you're a man facing prostate cancer, supporting someone who is, or just trying to figure out life after your treatments, you're in the right place. The numbers are actually staggering. In 2026 alone, around 300,000 men are expected to be diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States alone. So there's plenty of us out there. You're never alone in this. Today, I wanted to share my real story with you, the honest journey of how a pretty great life got turned upside down and how I finally got to where I am now, alive and hopeful and doing better than I ever thought possible. Stick with me because there's real encouragement here for you. It's a serious subject, but I do try to keep things as lighthearted as I can. Well, back in 2020, before any of this started, I was just a retired guy living the good life. I spent my days with the kids, the grandkids, great-grandchildren. Heck, we even had a couple of Shih Tzu dogs running around the house. We had a nice home, good cars, plenty of toys in the garage. I felt great. I was just enjoying that part of my life. A little family travel, all the things that we worked so hard for all of our lives. And then, late in 2020, everything changed in a heartbeat. We were, of course, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, when both my wife and I were diagnosed with cancer, just weeks apart. Hers was a spot on her lung, and mine was prostate cancer. She went in for surgery in December of 2020 and came through it well. Went through recovery. They wanted to keep her overnight for observation. And while eating her dinner in the hospital, she aspirated on a piece of endive lettuce. The next day, after coughing and choking all night and most of that day, they decided to rush her back into surgery. Well, during that time or shortly thereafter, she developed pneumonia. The pneumonia kept getting worse and worse. Then the doctors fought for days and days. But eventually, she just couldn't breathe on her own. Well, they told us they needed to put her on a ventilator. My wife and I had talked for years about our end-of-life wishes. Neither of us wanted extraordinary measures. We agreed that 1 week on a ventilator would be okay, but only 1 week. 7 days later, things had only gotten worse. The doctors kept suggesting new treatments to try, drastic treatments to try. But I knew what my wife would have wanted, and I respected her wishes and told them it was time to turn off the life support and let God have his way. She passed on December 26th of 2020. Now that's a crazy story. I don't know if you've ever known anyone in your life that was killed by a piece of endive lettuce. But that's really just the beginning of a much longer, harder season for me, which is exactly why I'm starting this channel. And in the coming videos, I'll fill you in on the full story of my prostate cancer journey, the challenges, the ups, the downs, the tough losses, but most importantly, the hope and the recovery that I've found. Like I said, my diagnosis came around the same time as my wife's. I didn't start treatment until spring of 2021. And talking with the urologist, I had a couple of options. They recommended either removing the prostate surgically or doing brachytherapy, where they implant radioactive seeds in the prostate, followed by 20 sessions of external beam radiation. Well, both of them basically gave me the same odds of beating the cancer. And since I really wasn't crazy about going into surgery right at that time, I went with the radiation. I really do have to admit, I was pretty clueless right then. I was walking around in a daze, and I didn't ask the right questions. The doctors didn't volunteer much about the possible long-term side effects, but I made it through the treatment without any major issues, at least none like what a lot of guys face after surgery. Time marches on, and about 2 years later, in late 2022, early into 2023, a few things happened. First of all, I met an amazing Christian woman online, and we started corresponding. Eventually, we met in person and began visiting each other, a long-distance relationship. But at the same time, I started having serious urinary problems. Blockages, retention, needing catheters, multiple emergency room visits. I also developed erectile dysfunction. For a guy who always felt intimacy was a big part of life, that was just devastating. And I really felt like a huge part of me was just gone. Well, here's the hopeful part. I want every man watching to hear this. There really is life and intimacy after prostate cancer if you want it. While I was courting my now wife, I decided to do something about the ED, and I talked to my urologist. He laid out the options. First of all, you should try pills, Viagra, Cialis. I did those. Neither of them worked. He told me that day that in pumps, a vacuum erection devices work in many cases. Well, I bought one off of Amazon, and turns out just to be a toy, and it really belonged in a sitcom, not in my bedroom. The third thing he suggested was that I might try injection therapy. Well, I put that off for a few months, not wanting to face that, but I caved. I tried the injection therapy too, and nothing worked. Well, that brings us right up to May of 2026, and I was feeling defeated about my whole situation. My wife has been incredibly supportive, but I was still frustrated. That's when I stumbled across a wonderful YouTube channel called A Touchy Subject, run by a woman named Victoria Collin. I watched dozens and dozens of her videos. And inspired by what I saw, I decided to make one last-ditch, all-in effort to regain function. Since then, with consistent daily work, things have kept improving. I went from feeling defeated to feeling confident and hopeful again. I should probably mention here that I married that wonderful woman in November of 2025, and we're building a good life together. I'm grateful for every single day I'm given. Well, that's my story for today, at least the beginning of my story. I'm sharing all of this because I know too many men suffer in silence from prostate cancer, after prostate cancer. If you're dealing with diagnosis, the treatment, decisions, erectile dysfunction, or just trying to find hope again, you're not alone. I'll be posting regular videos with deeper details of my journey, occasionally some product reviews, faith-based encouragement, and even some practical tips. Well, I might look like a mild-mannered Midwestern gentleman, but I do have a lot of persistence. And it's taken every bit of it to get here. And if I can figure this out, there's hope for all of us, including you. Well, thanks for watching. And this is the part where the YouTube creators always say, if you liked what you've seen, click on the like button. Go ahead and subscribe, and be sure to ring that bell so that you get notified of the new videos. But I'll just encourage you to do that if you will. I'll encourage you to leave a comment for me and tell me what you think honestly of my first video for YouTube. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.